bring outside influences into the classroom. So number one, outside industry, bring a toy company in, bring a company that's local in your town or community and to talk to the students to explain what goes on in a business every day, to show how all the different parts and pieces are working for that company, to show the students how those things all go together into one business so that kids could understand, even though they have English, math, science, physics, or whatever in a day, and they're like, how are these all related? Bringing industry into your classroom is really great to actually show them to do that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Matthew Worwood.
And my name is Dr. Cyndi Burnett.
This is the Fueling Creativity in Education podcast.
On this podcast, we'll be talking about various creativity topics and how they relate to the field of education.
We'll be talking with scholars, educators, and resident experts about their work, challenges they face, and exploring new perspectives of creativity.
All with the goal to help fuel a more rich and informed discussion that provides teachers, administrators, and emerging scholars with the information they need to infuse creativity into teaching and learning.
So let's begin.
Hello and welcome to the show. Today we have Peter Wachtel, who teaches architecture and product innovation design at Adolfo Camarillo High School in Camarillo, California. He was a 2019 winner of the Harbor Freight Tools for Schools Teaching Excellence Prize and 2022 California ACTE CTE Teacher of the Year, 2023 Guinness World Record holder. Oh, I can't wait to talk about that, of the longest charcuterie board in the world. How big do you think that is, Matt? We're going to wait and see. He has taught design at the college level at MIT, Pratt Institute, Parsons School of Design, and Otis College of Art and Design for more than 20 years. Wachtel, teaching after a 30-year career in the toy and entertainment industry, is the former president of the Southern California Toy Association, a published author of 2 books, and has been a toy and product design inventor, director at companies such as Marvel and Six Flags. So, Peter, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Cyndi, and Matt as well. It's a pleasure to be here.
Before we get into the conversation, I'm going to share my ignorance. I don't know what a charcuterie board is, so I couldn't even answer your question, Cyndi. I know.
Charcuterie board, basically, it's a long board that has cheeses and meats and different kinds of appetizers on it. So when you present or have people over, it's a great party dish kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So now that we're on this, how big do you think the Guinness World Record holder of the largest charcuterie board, which he did with his students, which we're going to learn about, how big do you think that is?
Am I allowed to ask a question? I mean, are we talking about sopressata, cheese, or are we talking about like big slices of pizza on it?
Well, actually, Guinness was very particular of things that they had to do. And since you being from England or London or that United Kingdom, they are very particular with things. So basically cheeses, meats, olives, cured meats, no pizza, no donuts, nothing like that. So basically it had to be those things. So 5 different kinds of cheeses, 3 different kinds of meats, and all that arranged nicely on the board.
Just under 5 feet.
That's the largest charcuterie board, you think, in the world?
Yeah, I can see I'm getting myself into massive trouble. Take us out of our misery, Peter.
Just a little short. You're short by about 202 feet and 4 inches.
Wow. So how are they carrying it?
So here's a little thing about it. So basically adding up to be about 207 feet, 4 inches, give or take, and about 67 yards on a football field. So what we did is we built it into 33-foot sections, and we used our old gym bleachers. And of course, we didn't use them as they were, but they were wooden gym bleachers. And what we did is we planed them, sanded them down, recoated them, cleaned them, polished them, made really nice 33-foot sections. And then we carried them, like 12 or 13 students at a time, down the steps, down to the stadium, the football stadium, and then we assembled them all together there on tables with tents. And since Guinness being so particular that they all had to be tented. It all had to be lined up perfectly. So it was quite a feat.
That's incredible. And you know, Cyndi and I, we've had a few guests on the show talk about these absolutely amazing immersive projects associated with design. So just to back up a little bit, how did you get into kind of product design and inventing in the first place? And then I'm interested to see how you transitioned into bringing that experience into a classroom environment. Oh,
that's an excellent question. A lot of people ask me that as well. So as you may or may not know, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, or Amherst.
Woohoo!
So,
go Bills!
Yeah, well, hopefully, because they keep making me mad each year. But Hopefully this is the year. So I started out just like any other kid, baseball, basketball, hockey, because hockey's on the East Coast. But I love to tinker with things. So I'd get a bicycle and I'd take it apart. I'd repaint it, restyle it. As the age of like 7 and up, I would do that. I got in a lot of trouble. I took our lawnmower apart and made a go-kart out of it. And I think my dad is still mad at me about that. So that was really interesting. I had an interesting high school experience too. I got in a little trouble in high school and didn't do that well the first couple of years. And then I realized at one point that high school is really about like 24 job interviews and 24 different bosses as you go through grades 9 through 12. And the students, what they might not realize is that, you might not need everything that you have in those classes, or you might not use them. But when you get older, it will be nice to draw upon, like, yes, I had a little sampling of this or that, and you can actually use in your life. So for example, if you don't do well in English or math or pay attention when you really have a great idea, you won't be able to communicate it effectively. And it shows you through attendance, tardiness, discipline, grades, how you'll do in the real world, because you've had good teachers and some maybe not as great teachers, and you've had hard classes and easy classes. And it's sort of like the real world with jobs and things like that. And how I bring that into the classroom is basically I take anything that's around you and make it worthy of exploration and discovery, and just be curious about things that are outside in the world. So like with the Guinness World Book of Records charcuterie board, we were just thinking something, what can we do that would benefit our community, the students, the school, the state, put us on the map, and be good for creativity, skilled trades, as well as STEM and STEAM. I know there's a lot of different things in there, but what we did is we could build it. We had to coordinate it logistically, but also we learned from each other teamwork, collaboration, design, working with other entities. And at the end, we also had to have people put this food onto the charcuterie board. And we couldn't use our own school because it would be a little bit of nepotism, because, of course, our school wants to be great. So we had to find a culinary program at a rival high school. And we had 24 of their culinary students come and help put all the charcuterie board stuff on the board. And then, of course, we had to have food safe and California standards and health department and all that fun stuff. So at the end, it really does take a village to raise a bunch of kids. But it was amazing because the students realized this is bigger than a lot of things, and it's how the world works. If you have a company, there's a lot of things that go into it. So that's one example of how I bring creativity into the classroom and draw a little bit on my experiences from when I was in high school.
So how many students did you have involved overall in that?
Probably altogether, I had 50 main students that worked on the board every day. But as the total goes, probably about 124 total students work on the board, the food, the logistics, the cleanup, the food, preparation and display on the charcuterie board as well. Yeah, so it was an ongoing deal. It was like, if you had a business, you had your main people and then you had the extras and all that stuff. But yeah, about 124.
And then did you invite the community to come and enjoy it? What did you do with all that food?
Oh, absolutely. Because, it was a huge event. So we had in the local papers, ABC, NBC, Fox, everybody, aired it in the morning. We actually had news crews at the high school from 6 a.m. all the way through. It was amazing. We invited the community to come and eat and all that stuff and see that. But that was the other stipulation with Guinness, is that we couldn't have people just come down the bleachers and start eating, crazy style, because contamination and stuff like that. So what we had to do is our catering students, they basically had to wear gloves and all that stuff. We just boxed them up into the go boxes and handed them to them over the fence, and then they could take them, eat them in the stands or take them home or whatever they had to do it. So that was another little hurdle to jump over, but it worked out great. It was a huge success.
When you hear these types of projects, it's great because you're physically making this product. But when you go and get it out into the community, Cyndi had referenced community, there's so many other challenges, as you've just been talking about. So I'm because that's that real world experience in my mind. It's not just a case of making something. It's when that something interacts with an environment involving people outside the classroom. So what I'm curious about is, as you were putting this together, and more importantly, the event itself, how much did you involve your students in all of the problem solving and planning that had to probably go about, given all of the challenges that you were facing?
That's a really good question as well. So I involved them in every aspect of what I was doing, not necessarily decision-wise, because I had to send all the emails myself. I couldn't have them just randomly send emails to Guinness and stuff. But basically I said, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're thinking. And we had a good probably 2 to 3 months of planning. So that in that stage, we were actually contacting Guinness. I was showing them the emails, what Guinness was writing back, like, here's the criteria we have to meet. Guinness also charges a fee. If it's something simple like how many bubbles you can blow in a minute, that you could just do on your phone and there's no fee at all. However, if you need an adjudicator to come there and witness it and record it, you need a lot more kinds of proof to do that, and they charge a fee. And it ranges really pretty much starting at about $15,000 all the way up to whatever. So we had to get the adjudicator there. But what I did is I said, hey, how wide should this board be? How thick should this board be? How long do you think we should, make it to the students? And like, what should we do with this? And I said, here's all the food that we have to put on it. And I showed Guinness's, list of things that they had to have on it. And then we actually reached out to the students' parents as well as the community local restaurants and said, hey, could you donate any of the, charcuterie food, meats, cheeses, olives, and stuff like that? However, we also had to keep in mind that because it was getting warmer out, it was in March, we couldn't just have the food sitting at the school for 2 or 3 weeks. We had to have it come that day, fresh, unopened, untouched. So I said, you see all these logistics that are going in there? How it translates to your education is like, let's say you're going to go to college or university later on. You have to start the planning process early. You can't just graduate. Here it is. It's May or June. And I'm ready to go. It's like, you have to contact the colleges, see what they offer, what they're going to do, how much the tuition is, are there scholarships available, is there financial aid available, what's the campus like, what are the community like, what you could do with it. So they're starting to see that there are big projects out there that we do in class that it's all tied together. There's math. You had to do all the math for all the fees we had to pay. You had to do the research. You had to do the creativity, the building part. So it really, they started seeing a lot like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. And I go, well, that's what happens when you get into the real world. And there is no second chances. You miss the event or, you don't get the record, it's over and your money's gone. I go, but that's the way it is. You get a job, you might get let go. You get a car, you might get in a car accident. But it shows them that the amount of effort and planning and preparation they do actually could pay off really big at the end.
I love how big this is in scope. I mean, I've always had a dream. I'll be honest. I've always had a dream of breaking a world record for the Guinness book. Cause I remember as a kid getting the book each year and reading through it and saying, someday I'm going to do something big. So I love that idea of doing something that big with your students. And I commend you for an incredible job on that. And I saw the pictures on the web, which we'll link to in our show notes. And
one of the reasons I still do this Guinness thing too, is that for some reason, my Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, so I said, you know what? I'm going to do, this is my own Super Bowl for me. If I could do this, Josh, you could bring a Super Bowl home to Buffalo, right? And it sort of worked out for me because I was pretty disappointed that they just couldn't bring it through. It's just basically a challenge. There's something out there, and I wanted to show the students that even if you think something's impossible, if you just nip at it little pieces at a time, you could get there. You can't do it all at once. It's impossible. But if you plan it out, you do little steps each time, it works out great. And at the same time, we were doing this Guinness board. I like to throw in extra things, like on food challenges, it's like, oh, here's a challenge, surprise, kind of thing. So one thing we also did while we're doing the Guinness that wasn't related to it is we have a UCLA Mattel Children's Hospital here in Los Angeles. And they have, special kids that are in there that have different kinds of, problems with them. So we ended up making over 100 wooden toy cars for Mattel's Children's Hospital at UCLA. And then we had them delivered there and stuff like that. So that was neat too. So they're seeing another big picture of what they do can really impact people, society, for the better. And there's no political tie-ins to it. It's just you're making toys for kids. You're doing a Guinness board, just to show, what you can do and learn things. So there's no agenda except just to do it and help people. So it's really been fun.
Going back to my point of, I love the fact that it's big. I also wonder for those teachers who are listening that say, I just don't have the time to take on such a massive project. How could they take what you've done and do it on a much smaller scale? So what recommendations would you have for that?
That's a good question too. I mean, there's probably 2 or 3 different kinds of teachers. There's the ones that are super focused. There's ones that are a little more creative, take a little more time. And there's a couple that are a little both. You can approach Guinness or any other kind of big project in 2 ways. You could do a big project and just narrow it down to smaller chunks. Like this week we're doing this, or this month we're doing this, and da-da-da. And that's what we did with the Guinness thing. We literally prepared for over 4 or 5 months because we knew we were going to do it in March because December is too cold, June's too hot. So we planned it all in little chunks. Other than that, if you want to do a Guinness or any kind of huge project like that, let's say just for Guinness' sake, have the students come up on their own, like this assignment. What would you do for a Guinness World Record? And keep it PG-13, obviously. Like how many bubbles can you blow? And see if you could tie it into the program, the class, the school somehow. Like, is it STEM? Is it STEAM? Is it an English thing? Is it something for football or cheer or any kind of sport? And think of something that's short and quick. Like here's an example I saw on a couple of Guinness sites. It's like they'd have the school mascot. How many high fives can the school mascot get in 1 minute? And they had the whole track team running around the mascot giving high fives. So it's great for the school. It's great for the community, collaboration. You get everybody, pumped for the school. And they set the world record, and they can video it. So it's, they could replay it back. You don't need the adjudicator. You don't have to pay that $15,000. And that's the other thing I want to touch a little about the $15,000. We had donations. We had to do a GoFundMe. So I don't just have $15,000 I throw at it, but everyone who did participate on the board, they got a little chunk of it, and it was laser etched in with their name on it, Guinness World Record, longest charcuterie board, the date, and all that. And they have a little piece of history. But for other teachers that want to do something like this at a smaller scale, look up current records, look at things that are easy to break, Google it. It's pretty easy. Watch them or follow them on social media and see what things might tie into what you do in class. And even if it's just a simple project and you don't make it, it's still fun. It's like these kids can literally now put on their resume when they go to college, like, I was part of the Guinness World Record longest charcuterie board or the toy project or things like that. So that's my advice for teachers, is just either break into small chunks or find something quick and easy to try.
And I feel like it's not just teachers we're targeting, the entire school community. I mean, Cindy's referenced it. You've referenced the word community multiple times in all of this. And I think there's something special about identifying, like setting a goal, like breaking a world record as a community and collaborating across disciplines. In your case, Peter, across schools. I can't help but think that particularly maybe for small towns that are looking to promote a sense of community within their town or city, this type of activity seems like something that schools could lead the way in doing.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the main reason we did. Camarillo is a small town. It's like the size of Amherst, Grand Island, some upstate, New York kind of, like cities, but it doesn't have to be in Los Angeles, New York City kind of thing. But yeah, it's basically, if they want a little bit extra for their school for pride and community and bringing the whole town together, this is a great opportunity to do it, whatever it is. It could be Guinness, it could be making toy cars, it could be anything. Like, for instance, or example, like if I was still in Buffalo, New York, Fisher Price is over there. I would totally collaborate with Fisher Price, bring them into my classroom, have them talk to my students, design fictitious kind of products for Fisher Price, have Fisher Price give my students, valuable feedback about what's going on. What is the toy industry all about? What happens in it? How does the toy get from A to Z? And we do that on an ongoing basis. We bring outside companies into the classroom. We've had Ford, BMW, Santa Barbara Zoo, Universal Studios, Mattel, Six Flags, and the students design projects for them. And then we go over there on field trips and all that. And then they design things based on criteria. And then those, members at those companies, they give feedback to the students like, hey, that's great, or have you thought about this? So I love the real world experience and just showing that there's a lot of students when they grow up or high school, they think that's the whole world is that town that they live in. And it's really not. And if you collaborate and work with companies or do these kind of big projects, they start to see, wow, if you leave the city limits, there's a whole nother world out there, and there's a whole nother high school, and then you move to the next town and it's a whole nother thing. So I think these kind of projects are really important for kids just to see a bigger picture of the world.
Just one final question, Peter. I understand the soft skills piece, but as you reflect back on the project, were there any kind of skills that students developed that benefited other classes, particularly in the core subjects like math, science, English, ELA?
Yeah, absolutely. So they had to learn a lot of math, like how are we going to get this board out the door? So a little physics. We have a board that's 207 feet long. Like, how are you going to get it out of a room that's so there was interesting things like that. When they also do other projects similar to Guinness, they have to write proposals to these companies. So they'll actually get up in front and say, hey, this is my idea for, a theme park building or whatever. So they learn not only soft skills, but they learn to fine tune their writing, math skills to make sure all the measurements are right. They learn eye-hand coordination with the skills and the power tools that they use. They have to learn to cut, drill, sand, polish, paint. So they have some really good skills. So if you said, oh, I want to eventually build a shelf for my house, they could do that. So they get the whole theme in there. They learn new technology. So we have 3D printers and online modeling 3D software. So they're learning the whole technology part as well. So I try to give them as much of a well-rounded education through STEAM or STEM as I possibly can. And they touch upon different kinds of subjects throughout the process of the projects.
Do you want to bring more creative and critical thinking into your school? Look no further than our podcast sponsor, Curiosity to Create.
Curiosity to Create is a nonprofit organization dedicated to engaging professional development for school districts and empowering educators through online courses and personal coaching.
And if you're craving a community of creative educators who love new ideas, don't miss out on their Creative Thinking Network. Get access to monthly webinars, creative lesson plans, and a supportive community, all focused on fostering creativity in the classroom.
To learn more, check out curiositytocreate.org or check out the links in the show notes for this episode. Peter, at the end of every episode, we ask all of the people that we interview, what 3 tips would you give to educators to help them bring creativity into their classroom?
So number 1, bring outside influences into the classroom. So number 1, outside industry, bring a toy company in. Bring a company that's local in your town or community and to talk to the students to explain what goes on in a business every day, to show how all the different parts and pieces are working for that company, to show the students how those things all go together into one business so that kids could understand, even though they have English, math, science, physics, or whatever in a day, and they're like, how are these all related? Bringing industry into your classroom is really great to actually show them to do that. Another tip I would say is, instead of just raising the roof, just take the roof off. Let anything happen. Do sort of like a brainstorm session. Come up with ideas that are just crazy, like doing a Guinness World Book of Records thing. And then say, here's how we're going to do it, and how we're going to do that like that. And keep the ideas open and flowing, and then start narrowing them down. And then I guess the final tip I would say is, no matter what you know or how you know it, be open to reteach yourself and relearn things, how you actually produce them. So if you're a teacher or whatever you are, just be open to new ideas and bring in things that challenge you and make you a little scared each day to try it. But it opens you up to more possibilities. There is no right or wrong way to do a lot of things. There's different ways. You see that, for example, with football teams and Super Bowls. The Bills just can't figure out what that is. But there isn't any one way. So I change my teaching around all the time. Like, I'll ask the students, what should the project be? And then I bring that in well. So those 3 things I think are great things for teachers to think about.
Well, Peter, I have to say, I really enjoyed hearing your story. And I know you have so many more stories that you could share with us about your work in the toy industry. And I know we had Ajel Wade, who was another toy designer on the show. So if you haven't heard that episode and you liked Peter's episode, I think you'll also like that episode. But what I really think is interesting is sort of breaking the paradigms of what we see as school. And there's so many conversations right now about education and what it should be. And I think think your example is just a beautiful one for showing the world what education should look like. So kudos to you for doing something bold and brilliant and big. And I think we need to do more of that and not be afraid to do those things and take on those challenges and have the students leading the way.
Oh, thank you, Cindy and Matt. Yeah, it's basically what I did is I took my experience as a toy designer and a theme park designer, and I just watered it down for high school and brought that in there and used some of my contacts for that. I show them some of my inventions and things that I've done, but they see that really if you just have a dream and an idea and you work hard at it, you really could do anything you want to do in life. It just takes grit and perseverance and just keep going through it. But I hope this helps a lot of teachers or just opens up ideas for projects and class things in education.
Well, I think that brings our interview with Peter to a conclusion. I will add that my family have finally chosen their NFL team. I will say that the Bills were on the list, but unfortunately we did select the Giants. There was a number of factors that went in, and I'm pretty comfortable with our decision. But I learned enough to know that this could be the Bills' year, maybe next year. They're definitely in a good place, and I want to let you know we did think about them. So if you have any questions for Cindy and I, or ideas for potential guests or topics that you'd like to explore, please reach out to us at questions@fuelingcreativitypodcast.com. My name's Dr. Matthew Worwood.
And my name is Dr. Cyndi Burnett. This podcast was produced by Matthew Worwood and Cyndi Burnett and edited by Sina Yousefzadeh. The episode was sponsored by Curiosity to Create.